Okay.
What up, world? It's your man G Williams, and I'm coming at you perturbed. That's a big word for upset and angry. You already know it's all right, but I ain't wrapped too tight. But I gotta say something, so I'm gonna say something.
Hey, what up, world? It's your boy G Lewis, and I just want to let you know I do say what I say because I am my father's son.
Well, we're coming at you live and direct again, um, in the midst of another travesty of justice in our country. New York decided that the grand jury will not indict in the murder of Eric Gardner. And so, with that, here we are yet again, just um, just a couple weeks after one injustice, we find ourselves right back in the same struggle to with obvious proof that the justice system just don't seem to care about us.
And you know what I do find interesting is that we have these obvious public executions at the hands of law enforcement that are being decided in secret rooms, almost by secret ballot, behind closed doors. So you have public executions of individuals that are being decided. The fate of those individuals are being, and the justice of those individuals are being decided in secret. I find that interesting. But what do you think about the epidemic of homicides by law enforcement or by the police and their lack of accountability?
I think first of all, let's get it straight. It is an epidemic for you, Mr. O'Reilly, Hannity, all you other big name media moguls out there with your own shows trying to spread the propaganda that is there's not an epidemic. There's an epidemic out here. People are dying, okay? And to try and prove your point with statistics is a slippery slope in the case that statistics can be spun to the favor of those who are creating them. Period. Okay? We can use them so subjectively that they fail to do anyone any justice. And that's what's been going on in the media regarding the portrayal that we as black men and women are not being hunted by law enforcement.
Well, I mean, I think that, and I thank God for people like Bill O'Reilly because he actually justifies the movement. Because when you see people holding up signs that says Black Lives Matter, when you use statistics to try to justify that, we don't have an epidemic. When it comes to murder or when it comes to the taking of a life, one is too many. If we were talking about a kid and we said, well, we've only killed 150 kids out of the 10 billion that are on the planet Earth. That's still a lot because those kids didn't deserve to die. Right. So it's not necessarily about the amount of people who got killed, but were they unjustly killed? And that's what causes the epidemic. Because when you have a demographic of individuals that their whole placement and reason for being here is to defend and protect law, and they do that by breaking the same thing that they're supposed to defend, then it causes an issue. In the military, one of the things that you swear in is you say, I will defend the United States of America against all enemies, foreign and domestic, which means I will defend it against Americans. Law enforcement needs to take that oath and apply it to themselves. They also need to defend the law, even against themselves.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Absolutely.
So, hands up movement. Moment or movement?
I don't know at this current state. Yet, everything in me wants to believe that this is a movement. We have been through several phases in the recent years where we've been excited and then time goes on and we let things die down. With hands up and the back-to-back decisions, I hope it's fueled enough fire to continue this, to make it grow until change comes. Okay? And on a personal note, like I said, it's not just a moment for me because I'm involved. So I won't sit idly by and let this just die out as a moment in my life.
Um, I'll reserve my answer towards the end of the segment because I want to tie some things together. But what I think is interesting is I heard a statement, and when I was listening to some criticisms of the president, and one of the statements that was made that I found really, really transcending is, don't be the thermometer or the thermostat, be the thermometer. And I say that to say this: the thermostat merely reflects what is already happening inside the room, but the thermometer, the thermostat reflects it, and the thermometer actually creates, the differences and the changes. So be the thermostat and not, or the thermometer and not the thermostat. To see people doing what they're doing and taking whether this world is going to change into their own hands, to me is awesome, and I hope they keep it up.
Absolutely.
So the hands up movement. There's been a lot of criticism of the hands up movement. One that I recently heard was, well, I don't understand why they're calling it the hands up movement because, Michael Brown did not have his hands up. What is your interpretation of the hands up movement?
I think it is a great tool, and we are using the Mike Brown case as a catalyst to only just say what's been going on in the community for so long. And so the necessity of the hands up movement and where we are is actually is very rewarding to see, because I see an agenda evolving. I see they have a local agenda in Ferguson, and then there is also a national agenda in which they are trying to achieve also.
Mm-hmm.
And so spot on to the hands up movement, and I'm a member.
Okay. And I think it's very important that when we discuss the hands up movement that we are very clear to individuals, especially critics, so they can understand that this is about people whose jobs it is to protect American citizens and treat the innocent like innocent, especially in a country where you're supposed to be innocent until proven guilty, not assumed to be guilty. So seeing people who are unarmed murdered at the hands of law enforcement is what drives the hands up movement, meaning I'm unarmed, my hands are up, there's no reason my life should be taken, but lives are still being taken. So please understand that it is not just about the individuals' lives that have been taken, but there are a lot of individuals' lives who have been taken that have not been mentioned. There are a lot of individuals who have been brutalized and not murdered that didn't make the media because it wasn't sensational enough for them to cover it. The hands up movement is about being treated like people, being treated like equals, finally being treated like Americans. That's what the hands up movement is about.
That's right. Agreed.
So why was it necessary and why now?
It's necessary in order to capitalize again on the momentum that has been sparked through these cases and through the wonderful invent of social media, who are showing. I mean, you look up and every day there's a new video.
Mm-hmm.
There's a different video. Some stuff that has been resurfaced from the past, and some stuff that just happened the night before, even in the midst of where we are in this country. It's almost scary in a sense because, tangent point, but is this to change for the better, or is it because now that we're deciding to mobilize and to defend ourselves, are we making law enforcement more angry?
I think anything that shines a spotlight on individuals who operate in secret is going to make them angry, and it should make them angry. I think it's necessary now because it's very important that African Americans, especially young people, have a voice of their own. No disrespect to the National Action Network, the Urban League, to NAACP, but obviously the agenda of your young have not been heard by you because they felt the need to create their own organization so their own voices can be finally heard. Them being brutalized in their community was their number one on their black agenda, and you failed to cover it. So I think it's necessary from that perspective. I think it's also necessary because of social media and the different accesses that you have to a variety of people to explain to the world what justice is. There has always been this fallacy that law and justice are like twins. They're attached at the hip, and that's not necessarily the case. We've seen murderers get off. We've seen trials where people have. Here's a perfect example to some of the people who would critique me and say, "Well, no, that's not necessarily true. Law and justice do go together." For all of you that believe that O.J. did it when he got off, you weren't very happy. You were screaming that there was no justice. Yet the law served its purpose. It took all of its necessary steps. And because it didn't go in your favor, you felt like there was no justice. I think it's very important that with this movement that they frame a picture to America to show them the lack of justice that African Americans meet in their own community. They say a man's house should be his castle. A man's community should be his home. And people are being murdered in their castle and in their homes. And there's something wrong with that. People need to, I think it's also important because people need to stop apologizing for being black. I constantly hear, you need to have this conversation with your kids and tell them, when law enforcement shows up, you need to, duck your head, don't look them in the eye. You need to, pretty much be apologetic for being black in America. And you shouldn't have to apologize for being black. And I think that this movement does that. It says, I'm black, I'm an American, my life is just as important as yours, and you are going to acknowledge it whether you want to or not. I think that's pivotal, and it's sad that it's coming from our young and not from our old, passed down to our young, filtering that way. But it's great that it's coming from our young because it's going to take passion for this thing to work. It's going to take something inside of each individual that drives them beyond just the moment to make this thing work. And let's see, we need to stop allowing society to label us as their poster children for crime and poverty. What this does in all of these videos, every time a new video comes out that shows somebody that was minding their business maybe, or that was doing something, even if they were committing a crime, what it does show is the use of force that is being used in these communities, is it justified? And not every black person is a criminal. Not every black person is poor. Which whenever it's election time and candidates want to talk about, we're going to get tough on crime and we're going to get tough, we're going to get those poor people off your street. Who do they show? They show the old black man with the white beard and the holes in his socks that are walking down the street. When they show crime, what do they show? They show the black guy with the skull cap like me, or maybe a hoodie like Trayvon Martin. And they say that's the criminal. That's what you look for. And unfortunately, that's even kind of the picture that sometimes is used in training, and might even be used in training our law enforcement, which is where we have a problem because racial profiling is a problem in America, Absolutely. Right? But profiling is a tactic used by law enforcement. So what's the difference between profiling, and when does profiling start to go bad? When it becomes racial profiling. You know, if you're putting a face to crime, you have already begun the racial profile before those people even graduate from the academy.